Everybody to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, and today we've got a brand spanking new edition of an NFL mock draft for you. That's right. The rookie class is coming into the NFL. We had a rookie mock draft a few weeks ago. A lot has changed, I would say, in the last week. There was one or two transactions in the NFL. We did recap them, I can assure you. And to join me today on the podcast is, of course, the King of Bros, a.k.a. D-Bro, Derek Brown, and the man with the BPE, the Big Pod Energy, Andrew Erickson, flexing his 3-inch pythons there on the YouTube channel. And our guest today is the host of our Dynasty Football podcast here at Fantasy Pros. You know him, of course, as the Scott Bogman. Bogman, this is early for you on your Scott Bogman time, as we like to call it. So we appreciate you joining us this early, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me. I set 4 alarms to make sure I would wake up in time. And, I wake up like as McDonald's quits doing breakfast. That's about what time I wake up every single day. So, just for a correlation for people.
Didn't they go to 24 hours breakfast?
Oh, they scrapped that real fast. So
okay.
You had,
just checking.
Yeah, fatties like me rolling in there at noon trying to get an Egg McMuffin, and they don't want to make them. So, yeah, they're out on that.
They came back with chicken McMuffins. I have been at McDonald's a lot lately. Let's just throw that out there.
Chicken McMuffins? That's a thing.
Yes. Oh, it's a thing.
I haven't had McDonald's breakfast in years. Andrew Erickson, you're the pinnacle of health. When's the last time you had a McDonald's breakfast?
No, actually, that's the only thing I probably will eat at McDonald's is McDonald's breakfast. I don't like the burger. I like the hash browns are really good. The Egg McMuffin hits the spot.
Oh. All right, so there you go. I was not expecting that answer.
With the first pick in the McDonald's draft, I select bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits. So,
it's gonna be a fun show. I could tell already.
Starting off the rails.
Before we kick things off here, I want to remind everybody the best way to experience this mock draft is, of course, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and check this out along with all the other great short and long form content, all the podcasts we have, including the Dynasty Football podcast that is hosted by our own Scott Bogman here, along with Pat Fitzmaurice. Fantastic stuff going on that show. I got to tell you, Bogman,
thank you.
Not because you're my friend, but because I just respect you so damn much. The show has been absolutely fantastic. You've done a great job taking over, and I encourage everybody, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Dynasty Football podcast, wherever you get your pods, because Scott's got some great guests in there, and Pat, you guys did the IDP a couple weeks ago. You're doing the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, the running backs. Every show so far that I listened to has been spot on, despite your personality, Scott. Despite all
well, thank you. I mean, I know I bring nothing to the table personality-wise, so that is great that you enjoy the show. I just do it in my robot voice. I offer no personal opinion, so it's great. No, it's a lot of fun, man. Pat is fun to work with. We've had some great guests on so far, and we just kind of, when we started, we just kind of laid a base. Went quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight ends, and IDPs, just to give you our rankings for Dynasty pre-draft. Obviously, the NFL draft going to change a lot of stuff, and I'm excited to do this mock today. This is going to be a lot of fun.
And we're just going to do the first round, and it is a great defensive class here for sure in this 2022. So a little bit different from last year's heavy quarterback class. And just to set everything up here, we're going to start with Derek Brown, then go into rotation, Andrew Erickson next, then Scott Bogman. We're going to go through that way today. As I said, a lot of personnel changes, so maybe some different picks from the last time we did this. But let's kick things off here with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Derek Brown is on the clock. So, D-Bro, who are you picking for Jacksonville with the 1-1?
I am not going to upset the balance. I'm going to go with and I know this is boring, people, but look, he's the overwhelming betting favorite to go first overall, regardless of whatever book you're looking at. He's minus 400 right now. Aiden Hutchinson is going to go for off the board for first to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And look, he's going to make a lot of sense for them as well. I mean, this is a defense that finished 18th in pressure rate last year, and this is despite they blitzed at the 5th highest rate, and that's all they could muster as far as pressure. Ugh. I mean, he's needed. He's definitely needed. So give me Hutchinson to Jacksonville.
All right, Hutchinson to Jacksonville. Huge talent. Appears to be a great clubhouse kind of guy, too. So certainly somebody you want to build a defense around. That puts the Detroit Lions up on the clock next for the 2 pick. Andrew Erickson, you are on the clock.
Yeah, I'm going to go with pass rusher as well. The Lions recently released Trey Flowers, and I know that there's been rumors of quarterback here. They could go with the safety. even though they just re-signed Tracy Walker to a 3-year extension worth a lot of money. So I'm going to go with Trayvon Walker from the University of Georgia. I think that he is the spark to this kneecap-hungry Detroit Lions defense. Number 1 ranked defense last year, Georgia Bulldogs. There's going to be like 12,000 of them drafted in the first round. And Trayvon Walker, I think, is going to be the first name called. 6'5", 272 pounds. The dude has this rare blend of speed and, 4.5, 140-yard dash, 98th percentile, super fast in the 3-cone, 93rd percentile. So I think that he's rising on people's boards, and I don't think that the Lions, I think they were locked in on Hutchinson, and now Hutchinson's going to go number 1. I think they're not going to stray away from the pass rush that they just haven't had. Only the Falcons last year were worse in terms of pressure rate, so I think that they go edge here with Trayvon Walker.
Love that pick here. We're doing a dynasty kit here for your drafts, and Bogman and I are doing the IDP profiles here. And I was lucky enough, somehow I drew Trayvon Walker for profiles to write. And I mean, incredible speed for a player with his size, the intensity he plays with, all those things. It's so easy to write glowing profiles of players like this. He can play in the 3, the 5, the 6. It doesn't matter. He can play all different techniques there. He's so versatile, such a talent. I love this pick. I'm very excited that this guy is now number 2 in our fantasy world here, which brings Scott Bogman up for the Houston Texans, who are now without Deshaun Watson. So a different look Houston Texans for 2022. Not that he played last year, but Boggs, you're on the clock for the 3rd pick here. Where are you going?
Got a lot of, they got a lot to work with here, that you can go any way you want in Houston. Got a lot of picks too, so that's great for them. They've said they want Davis Mills to be the guy to take over for right now. Don't know if he's going to be a bridge, but there's no quarterback to take here, which is what you would want if you were Houston. But I think we've let Evan Neal fall too far here so far, all the way to the 3 spot. The dude is built like the Aaron Donald of offense. He is shredded. He's ripped. He's ready to go. You drop it and play him. They already have Tunsil on the other side. Charlie Heck not so great. So let's build from the outside in and or from the inside out, excuse me, and let's give them Evan Neal, the big tackle out of Alabama, going 3rd off the board to drop in on the other side of Tunsil, and give the Texans and Davis Mills one more Mississippi to throw the ball. That's all we're looking for. Give him another heartbeat to get that ball out to a playmaker. They have tons of draft picks, so hopefully they'll take another one.
Well, that's certainly one more Mississippi than he had last year. That puts Derek Brown on the clock, and he was ready to make this pick. Oh, my goodness. Derek Brown for the Jets at 4. Who are you selecting?
I know we went this direction last time, but it makes too much sense, and the team's already telling us. So the clearest projection and picture that we get for teams every year, free agency and the NFL draft. They've already made one move to address this glaring need with signing DJ Reed. I'm going to give him the other part of piece to the outside corner and coverage. Give me Ahmad Sauce Gardner to the Jets. Is definitely a need. I know going to the corner top 5 could seem spicy, but Sauce, he's done. I mean, look, he's checked every single box that he needs to get this type of capital. He's the best cornerback. I think that he's separated himself some for the rest of these corners in this class. The Jets definitely need him. Sauce to New York.
The sauce is spicy for 2 mock draft episodes in a row to the New York Jets. So Gardner goes number 4. That puts Andrew Erickson up on the clock for the team that they share a stadium with, the New York Giants. Andrew, what do the Giants need in your opinion?
I think they need offensive line still. I know that they've made a couple of decent moves, going to the interior through free agency, Mark Walensky, John Feliciano, center and guard, but they still need, I think, help at the tackle position if they're ever going to figure out what Daniel Jones is. And lucky for me, I got the number 3 player on my big board still available here, and he plays offensive line. NC State, Iggy Ekwonu, allowed 0 quarterback hits in 2021, so I think that he's the spot here for Big Blue.
All right, so Iggy Ekwonu had a lovely combine, a lot of buzz around him. He goes to the New York Giants, another good pick there. 2 offensive linemen now off the board. The top 2 guys are done, which brings us back to Scott Bogman for the 6th pick for the Carolina Panthers. Boggs, you're up.
We're going quarterback here. This is Malik Willis. Look, they traded for Sam Darnold last year, and they went all the way back to Cam Newton. So it didn't work, and they got to get someone in here that can make some plays on offense for this team. It doesn't seem like Sam Darnold's going to be that guy. They lost faith in him very, very quickly. Malik Willis has clearly made himself the number one quarterback in this class of not great quarterbacks. I think they're more developmental. I think some of them could be pretty good. But as far as dropping in and changing a franchise, I think you're probably going to start the year with Darnold if you draft Malik Willis, but he'll be in there, by week 8. So give me Malik Willis out of Liberty to go QB the Panthers moving forward.
What's the scouting situation for Malik Willis in your opinion? When you look at him, I know you say, okay, maybe half the season you get out of him starting, but in terms of long-term dynasty investment, what's your comp with Malik Willis? What's your concept of where he could be in terms of his athleticism and his point totals?
I mean, super high upside. He has traits you can't teach. You can't teach that speed and you can't teach that arm. So as, he played against not great competition in college, being at a small school in Liberty. And I remember I got so excited to watch him against Ole Miss. And so I sat down, I'm ready to watch him. I see like the first couple plays, I'm like, this dude's going to be my number one quarterback. No doubt. I watched another series. I'm like, this guy's not getting drafted. What is he doing out there? I mean, he just made some huge mistakes. So it's all about getting between the ears right. He's got everything else, and he's got a great attitude for that, too. That's the thing. You can have all kinds of traits, but if you're not willing to learn, willing to listen, willing to take instruction, then it doesn't really matter. You're going to end up being Achilles Smith. So he's not that. He is more than willing to learn and grow. So I think he's going to be a great addition to whatever franchise drafts him.
All right, so Malik Willis, first quarterback off the board to the Carolina Panthers. Let's go to the Giants for the 7th pick. Derek Brown, you are on the clock.
The Giants need blocking help. Regardless of whether you think it's Daniel Jones or another quarterback long-term, they have got to fix this offensive line. There are 2 tackles that are still high on my board that are still out there hanging in the weeds. I'm going to give them Charles Cross, offensive tackle from Mississippi State. Definitely, I mean, they need the blocking help to figure out if Daniel Jones is going to be that guy. I mean, regardless of whatever you think about that, their offensive line has done him no favors during this time. Across top 20 PFF grade and pass protection last year, 2 sacks, no quarterback hits given up. Andrew Thomas, and I understand people say, well, he's there, and I understand he's not been great. He actually played some right tackle his first year at Georgia, so I think they could slide him over to right tackle, put Cross at left, and at least they have a starting semblance that at least looks like an offensive line.
Well, here's a question for you. I know this is you making a smart pick here and saying, look, Ekwonu's not enough. Give me Cross and Ekwonu, and I'm really reshaping this offensive line. Do you really think there's, or should I say, what's the percentage that you would put on it that this would actually happen with these 2 picks?
I think it's definitely possible, considering what we see out of this team and really building this team up. And building the team up from the trenches, and I understand people are going to say, well, dear Lord, they've already addressed the position. But Andrew Thomas has not been good. Like, he hasn't been. And I think that they need to address this offensive line. And this helps from all different perspectives. Like, 1, getting a clear evaluation of the quarterback position. 2, building this team from the trenches, and you're going to build it up for even if Daniel Jones is not the guy. So, hey, he's out of the team in a year, 2 years, whatever. Then you're building this up for the next quarterback that you get in the building, whether that's through the draft next year or not.
Mm-hmm. Icky can kick inside too. Like if they want to keep Cross, if they want to keep him on the outside, Icky can kick inside. So.
All right, Atlanta Falcons, Andrew Erickson, you're on the clock for the 8th pick overall.
Well, there are plenty of wide receivers that the Falcons could go with here because God knows they need some help at receiver.
They're going to gamble on one, Andrew?
I don't know who's left. So I'm going to go with a guy that has some shades of Calvin Ridley to his game. On the good side of things, not the bad side of things. So I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. He's my number 1 ranked wide receiver for fantasy and just in general in this class. I think the guy can get open at will. He reminds me a lot of Calvin Ridley because of that. So that's going to be the pick here. Hopefully Atlanta can figure out what they want to do with quarterback with Matt Ryan, but we'll go with Garrett Wilson here at wide receiver.
Andrew, what would be your expectation if this happened, if indeed Wilson ended up going to the Atlanta Falcons in terms of redraft leagues? How quickly do you think Wilson could contribute in this offense?
I mean, I think that he could step in and potentially be the number 2 target. I still think that it's the Kyle Pitts show. Kyle Pitts is basically, playing a wide receiver role in a tight end designation. So I think that they could be two guys that would potentially, lead the team in targets and still would lean towards Pitts being the true number one receiver. But, we've seen Garrett Wilson thrive alongside other top-tier playmakers. He played alongside Chris Olave, who we're probably going to maybe talk about sooner rather than later in this mock draft as well. So I don't think that the competition from Pitts is necessarily going to make Garrett Wilson not a player that you would want to have. It just depends on, is Matt Ryan the quarterback? I think that's really important. If it's someone else or a rookie quarterback, then I'd be more concerned.
Well, we've been spoiled last 2 years. We've had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson come into the league, and as rookie wide receivers go, they were pretty good performances. Let's just say that. All right, the number 9 pick now belongs to Seattle after that trade with Denver for Russell Wilson. So Scott Bogman, now that Seattle's moved up to this 9 spot, where do you think they're going to go with their pick?
Well, I think if you're Seattle, you really want to tackle, but the 3 big ones are off the board. You also really want a quarterback because you don't want Drew Lock playing for you, but I don't know that there's a franchise changer here. So for me, I'm going to give them Kayvon Thibodeau. The guy was the number 1 pick. I know there's a little bit of questions about his motor, that he takes some plays off and stuff like that, but just the first step explosion that you see from Kayvon Thibodeau is almost unmatched, even at the next level. It's unbelievable. So it's another guy like Malik Willis who it can be taught, and he can come in and be a dominant player on the edge. He's going to just have to be coached up a little bit, but natural instincts. I think a lot of the motor stuff is also, I think that is a little bit money instigated here because the guy knew he was going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. So, everyone talked about him being the number 1 pick overall the entire season. So I think he knew I kind of need to save myself for the next level as well. So hopefully, you know what the NFL is. If you take plays off, it stands for not for long. So that ain't going to cut it at the next level. So I expect Tibbs to give it his all every single play out there. And I think this is a great pick for them because the pass rushers in Seattle are rough right now. It's Uchenna Nwosu and Darrell Taylor on the edge with a couple other rotational guys, and it looks ugly. So drop Tibbs right in there and give, he's a 3-down player from day one.
The last draft we did, Thibodeau actually went 8 to the Falcons. Andrew made that selection. So now 1 spot lower to the Seattle Seahawks. That brings us to the 10th pick, back to the Jets here. So Debro, you're up on the clock.
A lot of different ways. We got some talented players falling down. I could go Kyle Hamilton, could go address edge. I am going to give Zach Wilson another playmaker. I'm sad that Garrett Wilson is off the board here, but it makes a lot of sense to Atlanta. I'm going to go with the other guy that I think he's going to be in contention. I'm still going through rookies, watching film and stuff like that, but contention for my wide receiver 1 in this class. Give me Drake London to New York. I think he's a good stylistic fit, considering they do have Elijah Moore there as well. I think that having a guy like Drake London, big body wide receiver, can win on the outside, makes a lot of sense, especially pairing his skill set with Elijah Moore. Yeah, give Drake London to the Jets.
Now, you've been a London guy since I feel like we started talking about these wide receivers. What is it about London that really sticks out to you?
I think he's a guy that I think is going to step in to the NFL from day one. We've seen him operate on the outside, and with his, I know a lot of people give him a lot of crap about his lack of separation and stuff like that. There's a lot of different ways you can parse up separation, whether it's early with footwork and releases at the line or late. The guy still gets open and he still makes really good contested catches. So I think that Drake London, and especially if you're looking at to fit skill sets, because if the way that and dimensions of different passing attacks, like having a bunch of small wide receivers with speed, okay, fine, but you're also going to need the size, especially guys that can win on the outside. And so for a lot of different teams, London fits that, especially with a place like New York. So as a guy that he's a different mold of wide receiver than a lot of the wide receivers that are not only in this class, but even if you go back to last year's class. So London definitely stands out in that regard.
All right, just to recap the first 10 picks here, Jacksonville goes with edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan with the first pick. Then the Detroit Lions select edge rusher Trayvon Walker from Georgia. Then Evan Neal goes to the Houston Texans. Ahmad Sauce Gardner goes to the Jets yet again. The cornerback from Cincinnati. Ike Ekwonu goes to the New York Giants, offensive tackle. Then Malik Willis, first quarterback off the board, to the Carolina Panthers at 6. Charles Cross, offensive tackle, Mississippi State, to the New York Giants at 7. The Atlanta Falcons select Garrett Wilson, wide receiver from Ohio State, at 8. And then at Seattle, taking Kayvon Thibodeau, edge rusher from Oregon, at 9, followed by New York Jets. Drake London, wide receiver. That means that Andrew Erickson is back up on the clock for the Washington Commanders, who have themselves a new quarterback. So do you want to give him another toy, or do you want to go on the defensive side of the football?
Yeah, I think I'm going to get maybe not a toy, maybe just something to kind of keep him upright, I think is kind of the move I want to make here. I know last time when I was with this pick, I went with Kyle Hamilton because I thought there was a need for safety for Washington. But they have recently just signed Bobby McCain, re-signed him to the team. So I'm going to go in a different direction here. And I'm going to go with Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. I just think that he is someone that we're not talking enough about. I think that he's going to be someone that a lot of people are like, oh man, like who is this guy? It's just someone that's just rising up the boards from the Senior Bowl to the scouting combine. You know, his overall PFF grade last year, 97.3, was first in all Division I college football, you know, number 1 in terms of run blocking grades. So I think that he's a guy that is not going to get out of the top 15, especially with these tackles coming off the board. People just value this position. And I think that, you know, the way that the things played out with Landon Collins with Washington, I think that they'll be a little bit gun shy trying to go after a safety that if used the correct way, like can be really dynamic for your defense. But if you don't know what you're doing with a certain specific skill set, then it's like, what's the point of having this guy? So interested to see where Kyle Hamilton ends up going, but I'm going to go with Trevor Penning here.
All right, Minnesota Vikings up next at number 12. Scott Bogman. This is a team certainly trying to get better on the defensive side of the football. So is this a spot for Kyle Hamilton?
Yes, this is a snap pick, run up, drop it in immediately. Xavier Woods is gone off of this team now. They need another safety. This is a absolute perfect fit. Kyle Hamilton does it all. Like my comp for him is Tyrann Mathieu with size, like right, because Tyrann is a little bit undersized. I think he's about 5'11", but he does everything. You can play him in the box, you can play him at free, you can line him up in the slot. Hamilton does all of that at about 6'2", so much bigger dude. Super excited to see him at the next level. And this is a snap pick because this guy, I mean, on a lot of boards, he's the best player in this draft. So to see him fall, it's all because safety is not a premium position. You know, you want the P's to start. Your passer, your playmaker, your pass rusher, and your pass protection and pass defense. That's what you want to start a franchise. So pass defense being the last of that group, that is why Kyle Hamilton will slip. But he might be the best player in this draft. He's an incredible safety.
Because of his size at 6'3", is there any chance he becomes like a Jeremy Chin or an Isaiah Simmons where he kind of floats back and forth and plays some linebacker too?
He can absolutely do it all. He can be the star position, the buck, whatever you want to call it. He can be all over the place. So,
all right, very good. So Kyle Hamilton to the Vikings. That puts the Houston Texans back on the clock. Debro, as Bogman said it before, they have a lot of needs. So we already addressed one of them with the Houston Texans there. So we're giving them an offensive tackle. So where do you want to go next for the Texans?
Well, right now the Houston Texans are trying to gather themselves. They're fuming right now because after losing Justin Reed, they were hoping that Hamilton fell down the board. That fall was going to stop with Houston. But considering a really good pick by Bogman, I am going to give them some help on the edge, considering that this defense, look, they were not good trying to get after the passer last year, 28th in pressure rate. And I understand Jonathan Grenard was a really nice surprise with 8 sacks, 12 QB hits, but they need more. And a guy that we're talking about, players that are rising up boards, Jermaine Johnson is definitely doing that. He's going to go to Houston here at 13 and give them some help in getting after the quarterback.
So Jermaine Johnson goes next here, edge rusher off the board. That puts us up to the number 14 pick in the Baltimore Ravens for Andrew Erickson.
Yeah, so this pick has been so easy for me during the mock season. I just, I queue up David Ojabo, and I'm like, all right, perfect. He's going to be back with his Michigan coach. It's going to be perfect. But the recent news with Ojabo is that he has a torn Achilles. At Michigan's pro day, it's really an unfortunate situation for a guy that was locked in as a top 15 pick. Now there's rumors, okay, could he fall out of the first round? He's going to be in the back end, in the 20s. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of information we're going to have to parse through. So I'm not going to go Ojabo here because I do think that the Ravens will look in a different direction because of the injury. And instead, I will go with a cornerback that is also dealt with some injuries himself. I'm going to go with Derek Stingley at cornerback. Last year we saw the Ravens, basically their secondary was decimated by injuries. They recently released Tavon Young. Anthony Everett signed with the Raiders. So they just don't have a lot of depth. And I think that they look at a guy like Stingley as someone that they can mold and get back to form of a top-tier talent like we saw him when he first played at LSU. Those practice videos of him locking up Jamar Chase at LSU practice. It seems like it was such a long time ago, but it still happened. It still happened at one point. So I think that they'll buy into the upside here in the middle of the first round.
Yeah, Stingley played only 8 games last year because of a foot injury, but certainly a superb athlete. He's got the length that you look for. A lot of people have compared him to possibly D'Angelo Hall. My goodness, if he can reach that level of play, that would be something. And look, he plays the ball very well. So if you're in IDP leagues, a guy who could certainly get you some picks potentially. The thing is, if he becomes that shutdown corner, Boggs, we always know that, right? In IDP stuff, like if you become the shutdown corner.
You don't want him in IDP. They won't throw at him.
In IDP. They don't throw the ball your way.
We gotta find a way to fix that. If you're on the field for X amount of plays and you get thrown at less than 3 times, you should get some bonus or something. We got to figure that out.
What do you think of this, guys? Bogman and I have been pushing for this theoretically here on the IDP show. You like this, where we try to find a way to reward the shutdown corners. So you think we're onto something here, or are we just crazy, bro?
I like it. I like it a lot because the thing about it is, like, if they're not throwing at you, you're obviously #good. And so, like, how do you reward that? Like, if he's a really good shadow corner, it's like, well, it's not going to necessarily show up in the box score. I think it's really good ways to get creative with that. No, I like it, fellas.
All right, so we're continuing to innovate here at Fantasy Pros.
That's right.
So whether it be the Dynasty podcast, the regular Fantasy Football podcast, or of course the IDP show. But Bogman, you're up next for the Eagles, who have back-to-back picks here, 15 and 16. So go ahead, make one pick, and then D-Bro gets to make the second one. So you're GM and assistant GM here, I guess.
All right. Well, I'm going to take the offensive side of the ball. I think it's safe to say, fellas, that Jalen Reagor has not worked out. So I believe on PFF he graded 105 out of 115 gradable wide receivers. Not fantastic. So let's go ahead and drop Treylon Burks right in there for this team. Give themselves some size and speed. I know his 40 time wasn't great with all the record 40s happening. I don't care. The game speed shows up on tape in the SEC with some of the best athletes on the planet. So Treylon Burks comes in here and he can be the thunder to the lightning that is Devontae Smith and give Jalen Hurts absolutely no excuses for throwing the ball poorly ever when you have a Heisman winner and you have a big first rounder like Treylon Burks. I would love this selection for the Eagles, and it would be great for his value in fantasy as well. So give me Burks to Philly.
I like that your confidence in Burks has not been shaken from any combine stuff, because you've been a Burks guy. I remember having these conversations. We were doing the college football show last fall together on the betting pro side of things, that Burks was your dude. He's a big bodied wide receiver. So you're not putting too much stock into maybe a little bit of the underwhelming 40 time or anything like that.
I probably put too little stock into the combine because, you can get good information, but for me, I like the information of the rumors that we hear coming out from GMs of, how did a guy interview and stuff like that. Running around in his underwear, catching balls in the gauntlet, it shows some stuff. You're never going to see that on a football field. You're not getting the ball thrown to you twice. So, I don't
you've
care.
Never played with Derek Brown, because I heard that he likes to go run around his underwear.
Oh, yeah, double forward passes in Derek Brown's league. Is that right? So,
hey, look, right. In my double ankle braces, I could thread the needle, okay? Thank
you. That's just to keep you grounded from all the talent, baby. That's what that does. That's what the ankle braces do. All right, D-Bro, you're up next with a 16 pick here for the next one for the Eagles. So Burks is already on the roster. Where do you go next?
I think considering that we do have a little bit of depth at corner, I could go corner here because the Eagles do have a need opposite Darius Slay. I am going to, and I know Eagles fans, it's hard to make them happy. Like, whether you're going, like, I could pick, like, Bogman goes wide receiver, then they're going to say, wow, we need a linebacker. Oh, we need a corner. I'm going to go with a guy that I understand that they just re-signed Fletcher Cox to, but it's a 1-year deal, people. And he's not going to be around there forever. Hell, there was a lot of rumors about maybe he wasn't coming back. So I'm going to give them a guy that's going to answer the position. And for some of the concerns about him not being a full snap player, obviously this is going to be an easier transition, and they're not going to have to play him full time. the raw talent and what he did at the damn combine is going to cement him inside the top 20. Give me Jordan Davis, defensive tackle from Georgia, heading over to Philly.
My goodness, how they have risen. Jordan Davis up to 16. I love it. And you're right. If Fletcher Cox and the Eagles don't come back together, then Jordan Davis certainly makes a whole lot of sense there. Andrew Erickson, you're up next for the Chargers with the 17th pick. You are on the clock.
Just got sniped.
This one's tough. Especially because the Chargers, I mean, you look at what they had for team needs coming in, and, they kind of figured out, they signed J.C. Jackson. They got Sebastian Joseph Day, on the defensive line. So, again, I'm just kind of looking for luxury picks here, and I know that it's the same pick I made last time, but Jameson Williams. I think that he just complements the two receivers they already have there with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams so well as a deep threat, someone that can take the top off the ball, and he's going to be available at this pick because of his injury, and the Chargers have enough depth where they can wait on him if they need to get him along a little bit slower, or they don't need him for September. They want him when it's shootouts against Mahomes and Derek Carr and Russell Wilson. James Williams is going to be that X factor for the Los Angeles Chargers. So I love him a lot to the Chargers, and that's where I hope that he goes.
Yeah, so 2 times in a row, Andrew Erickson slapping that pick down. Jameson Williams to the Los Angeles Chargers. Boy, oh boy, it's a lot of fun receivers there for Justin Herbert. Let's go to the New Orleans Saints here with the number 18 pick overall. Scott Bogman, you are on the clock.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it here, guys. I'm going to take Kenny Pickett to the New Orleans Saints. They've had, since Drew Brees left, it has been a disaster at quarterback, right? I mean, Taysom Hill with the weird contract, if you're a quarterback contract, which has since been restructured. And, the Saints also proved this year that the cap is an absolute fraud joke. Nobody cares. They were 72 million over 2 weeks ago, and now they're 38 million under. How does that even work? I have no idea.
Love to see it.
Yeah, but yeah. Hashtag magic right there. Yeah.
I was going to say, and as a Saints fan, Derek Brown is oddly kind of quiet about all this. I feel like he just kind of
it's every year.
Yeah.
It's every single year they do this. And people are like, how do they do it? And it's good teams stay good. What do you want me to tell you?
But you got a new coaching staff in here. You do have needs on the offensive side of the ball. You also need wide receivers, but this class is very deep. So if they don't take one here, they can take one in the next couple rounds here. There's many, many good wide receivers. There's not many good quarterbacks, as we know. And Pickett is developmental. I wouldn't expect him to drop in and start immediately. Let's give Jameis another year. Let Kenny Pickett, learn behind him. And I think that would be perfect for the Saints. I guess, maybe Jimmy G is still on the table for them. Baker Mayfield, sorry, D-Bro, might be on the table for them. We'll see. But, they tried to push the chips in on Deshaun. It didn't happen. So let's get Mr. Tiny Hands out of Pitt himself, Kenny Pickett. By the way, I do not care what size his hands are. It doesn't make any difference to me.
It's the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, I think it's dumb. The guy runs hard. He wears the double gloves, all that stuff. He's ready
make your hands bigger with the second glove. That's why.
That's right. I mean, I don't know why he does all that nonsense.
I don't know.
But I don't really care. Hand size doesn't matter to me. So let's get him in New Orleans and get him developing.
All right, let's see who lands for the Philadelphia Eagles here at number 19. So you've already got Jordan Davis and Treylon Burks. So D-Bro, continue to remake the Eagles here.
We're going to go to the corner position. Talked about it already. I'm going to give them Trent McDuffie out of Washington. A guy that not only can play zone, can play man. I think he's going to give them some versatility. And teaming with Darius Slay on the outside, I think, is a really good fit.
All right, so Trent McDuffie over to the Eagles, who had 3 of the last 10 picks here for themselves. Not too shabby. Let's recap it real quick for everybody. We have the Washington Commanders selecting offensive tackle Trevor Penning. Then Kyle Hamilton, safety, going to the Minnesota Vikings at 12. At 13, Houston Texans selecting Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher from Florida State. Then the Baltimore Ravens selecting Derek Stingley, cornerback from LSU. The Eagles back-to-back at 15 and 16, taking Treylon Burks, wide receiver. Then Jordan Davis, defensive tackle. Andrew Erickson, yet again, staying on brand. Los Angeles Chargers taking Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama. Then Kenny Pickett, the quarterback, going to the Saints at 18. The Eagles then with Trent McDuffie, corner from Washington, which puts Bogman's Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock at 20, but he doesn't get to make this pick. No, in a cruel twist of fate.
It's probably better.
Andrew Erickson. Go ahead, Andrew Erickson. Make Bogman happy. Put a smile on his face here.
Oh, now I'm under lot of pressure, to make this pick good. I mean, so all right, I'm gonna go with I was hoping McDuffie might actually fall to me at 20, but alas, he's been sniped. So I'm still gonna go back to the cornerback position with Andrew Booth Jr. from Clemson. I think that he's a really well-rounded cornerback. I don't think that he has like this calling card of this guy's going to be a shutdown cornerback at the next level. I think he's really scheme diverse. I think that he's a little bit better in zone. But, he's been really good against zone coverage, elite sub-40 passer rating when targeted at the college level. So I think Andrew Booth is a really solid pick there for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So Andrew selects another Andrew Booth. Bogman, would you rather have had McDuffie, or are you happy with the Booth selection?
A corner is fine. So Joe Hayden,
please.
Joe Hayden's gone. So I would my dream scenario is Penning falls there, and I like Dan Moore. I think he performed admirably in his first year as a left tackle in the NFL as a fourth rounder out of A&M. But anytime you get a first rounder dropped in there instead of a fourth rounder, I think you're doing something right. So but he didn't fall here. There's no quarterback to take to sit behind Trubisky. So corner is a good call. I like that pick. Yeah. So approved.
For those of
Erickson. Approved.
For those of you who like to play a little Uno on the weekends, this is where you play the reverse card, Bogman, because now you get to make a pick for Andrew and my New England Patriots at 21. So clearly they could use a wide receiver. They could use a playmaker. That'd be nice. So what are you going to do? You're going to be disciplined and take the linebacker? Or are you going to give us something fun for fantasy?
No, of course I'm going to take the linebacker, because the one time this team tried to take a first-round wide receiver was N'Keal Harry, and, N'Keal Harry is the downside of those big wide receivers like we talked about with Drake London, you know what I mean? He's a guy that didn't get separation but made all those plays at the collegiate level, just can't seem to do it at the NFL level. This is Devin Lloyd, guys. I mean, it has to be. You drop in a leader for this defense, for this team. It is one of the very few positions that they're thin at. I thought maybe offensive line, but they signed Trent Brown today. So I'm going to go with Devin Lloyd here. And I think this is one of those, like Kyle Hamilton, who I picked for Minnesota earlier, run up to the board, hand the card in, and get that linebacker. And that is your linebacker for the foreseeable future and a leader on defense. So
that makes me happy.
I like this pick.
Need a linebacker.
I can't tell by Andrew's face if he likes this or not.
Andrew Erickson stamp of approval.
Boom. Let's go.
So you're good.
All right.
Would you have rather had Nakobe Dean, or you like Lloyd, Andrew?
I'm like souring on Nakobe. I mean, souring on Nakobe Dean. Like he's just really, really small. Like that's one thing that I have. I mean, again, it didn't really show up, at Georgia, but
they said that about Devin White too. He's just really, really small.
I think that Lloyd is the clear-cut number one linebacker in the class.
I do too.
I'm fine with that. Do you agree with this? Is this a sentiment here, Debro, that Lloyd is above Dean for you as well?
Yeah, I gave them Dean, I think, in our last mock, and I think that his versatility, pushed it over for me. But I think that Devin Lloyd is probably, the more that I've watched him and the more that I've dug into some of his numbers, I think he is linebacker one here.
All right, so the Green Bay Packers are now up at the 22 pick. They get this pick from Las Vegas. So here you go, D-Bro. You want to take another quarterback here? You know how they love to take first-round quarterbacks. Packers. What do you want to do?
Actually, I was considering a fullback, something else, maybe a blocking tight end, something around there.
They certainly need a wide receiver right now. And Chris Olave is out there, and a couple other guys who I think are pretty darn good. But Olave kind of sticks out.
Here comes the lineman.
And I'm going to take the obvious pick here. I'm going to go Chris Olave to the Green Bay Packers. And one of the reasons I want to do this is because, look, Olave has traits that you just can't teach. That type of speed, I think his route running is also fantastic. Now, is Aaron Rodgers going to gel with a rookie wide receiver? We'll see. But we're talking about pairing skill sets. The reason that I want to go with Olave here as well is because with all these different picks that the Packers have, they can pick up a guy that also can play on the outside and match well with his skill set in the second round. Like if they were to go with Christian Watson, George Pickens, would be a really good mix of different skill sets for this passing attack. So give me Olave here.
All right, so Chris Olave going to Green Bay Packers, and a lot of fantasy nerds get very excited right away. Andrew Erickson, you are up for the Cardinals with the 23rd pick overall.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guy that, I feel like I've mocked to the Eagles like almost every single time, but then Kelsey decided to unretire, so now he's available because he's falling in drafts a little bit more. So I'm going to go with Tyler Linderbaum here. Shore up the interior of the offensive line for the Arizona Cardinals. I know that their incumbent starter, Rodney Hudson, is there, but he had his worst year to date last season. He's entering his age 33 season, and I just think that Linderbaum is the guy you just lock and load as, okay, here's our center for the next 15 years. Like, he's locked and loaded and can play a guard as well. So I think that Linderbaum is the pick for me.
All right, so Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Iowa to the Cardinals. The Dallas Cowboys have been very BPA in the draft last few years. Bogman, is that what they do again here on the 24th pick?
Yeah, I think the Cowboys, there's no pressure, by the way. Thanks for giving me the Cowboys, guys. Not like Cowboys fans are ever,
well,
irrational.
You already know no matter what you do, they're all going to hate whatever you do. So
that's very
pressure,
true.
I feel like
it's the same thing as making selections for the Eagles. They're going to hate it regardless, and it's fine.
Just any team in the NFC East for sure. So, look, I think edge rusher is the big need here. I want to give them Ojabo, but I think that maybe drafting Jalen Smith and sitting on him after the injury makes them gun shy to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and give them George Karlaftis out of Purdue here. I think George Karlaftis can come in and give them an immediate impact player. Guy doesn't have to play all 3 downs to start. He can, but he doesn't have to come in. There's not a lot of pressure on him. And, when the Cowboys get up, because that offense is good and they're still going to get leads, you got to be able to pin your ears back and get after the quarterback like they were last year. Obviously, Randy Gregory moving on. So they need someone to drop into that spot. So I like Karlaftis, so I will give him to the Dallas Cowboys here.
I like the effort level from Karlaftis. That's one thing that stood out to me. You like those kind of guys, and I think they're starting to build that on that defense over there. And a guy who's still relatively new to football by comparison to some of these other guys in the first round. So it's somebody that could still continue to grow and develop over time. The Buffalo Bills are up next with the 25th pick. D-Bro, what do you do for the Bills?
Well, when one Georgia defensive tackle is already gone, you have to go with the next one, right?
I guess
with them cutting Star, I think definitely signals where they're going to go. They need to address the defensive line. I know they have Von Miller and stuff, but they need to get some more help in the interior. Give me Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia to the Buffalo Bills.
All right, so Wyatt goes to the Bills here. So the draft of the Georgia Bulldogs continues, as we all believe it going to be. The Tennessee Titans are up next with 26. So Erickson, they just brought in Robert Woods. So hopefully his recovery goes well and he pairs nicely with A.J. Brown, theoretically. So maybe the wide receiver position is taken care of a little bit. So what do the Titans need now?
Yeah, I think that wide receiver bringing in Woods made a lot of sense. It's a contract. They're not locked into, they're basically can get out of it after this year if they really want to. So they just kind of have to shoulder about $15 million on the salary cap with Robert Woods' contract. So I think that they're committed to him, at least for this year, to be a role player in that offense. So I don't think they go receiver here. And I think that this is a team that will take a guy like David Ojabo. You look at who they've taken historically. Jeffrey Simmons, would have been locked and loaded top pick, fell because of injuries. Last year, Caleb Farley, locked and loaded corner, fell for injuries. Seems like this is the Titans, this is the thing that they do. They scoop up value when guys fall because of injury. So I'm going to go with David Ojabo. He had 11 sacks last year after playing just 26 snaps overall in 2020. He's going to be a situational player. He's not going to be used much in the run game. But if the Titans are going to try to make a run, at the playoffs, bringing in Ojabo, whether it be in October, November, can really give a boost to their defense of the pass rush alongside Harold Landry.
All right, the Buccaneers are up next at 27. Last time we did this, we didn't know who their quarterback was. This time it's some guy named Brady. So Scott Bogman, what do you want to do here for the Bucs who are going to take one more ride at the championship?
Man, you can really take any position for the Bucs because this team is fairly stacked, right? Now at wide receiver, after they slap the franchise tag on Godwin, they've got Evans and they signed Russell Gage, and there's talk about Julio being recruited there, right? So they've got enough at wide receiver, even though the wide receivers are deep. I feel like for this team, you could always use pass rush help, defensive line help. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a big interior defensive tackle, DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M. I can't believe I'm doing this because I don't like Aggies, right? You guys can see I'm a Longhorns fan right here, but Leal is very good. He offers a lot of upside here, and to just give them another big body in the middle, and he can be rotational early and take over eventually. So very much a BPA pick for the Bucs on their board, but I'll give them Leal out of A&M.
Did you have any inclination, Boggs, to take a defensive back because of how bad they were at times last year? And that I know they had a lot of injuries, but still, they were not good in the secondary last year.
Yeah, but they got Davis back and Murphy Bunting. I know he had a bad year last year, but he snapped his elbow in half like week 1. I mean, we were watching it on Thursday night. It was gross, and he came back from that in the season. So I think he can be better. Jamel Dean is a little bit of a question mark. So, but I think you keep adding. You're gonna be leading, so you give more push up the middle, and you get after that quarterback. That's how I feel for this team.
That's a good approach. All right, the Green Bay Packers are up again for the 28th pick. Derek Brown, you are up for the Packers once again. So you already took Olave. What do you want to take next?
I think they have they're really, really big need. With Dennis Kelly being a free agent at the right tackle position, there's 2 guys that stick out here, and depends on which one you want to go with. I'm going to go with Bernard Raymond out of Central Michigan to fill that need on the offensive line. Could have easily gone Tyler Smith. Either one of these guys makes a ton of sense for Green Bay.
Okay, so offensive tackle Bernard Raymond going to the Packers, which brings us to the Dolphins up next at number 29. Andrew Erickson, you are on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, I think that offensive line, I mean, Miami's been big spenders in free agency. They've plugged up a lot of holes that they have, and I still think that they can add to their offensive line because really when you look at their defense is pretty solid across the board, strong secondary. I think that the only thing they could really upgrade is linebacker, and I don't want to use a first-round pick necessarily, especially with some of the guys that are available. I mean, I guess I could go with Dean potentially, but I'm still going to go with offensive line. I know that there are rumors that, maybe they land Teron Armstead. Right. But so with that in mind, I will go with the guard position. I'll go with Zion Johnson from Boston College.
If they land Armstead, would that change your mind at all?
I mean, I think that I would probably go. Well, I mean, if they don't land Armstead, I would probably go with Tyler Smith from Tulsa. I think that I prefer to get that tackle locked up. But if if they do get Armstead, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for them to take a tackle. I still think I know that they brought in Williams from Dallas as a guard. But again, it's just the offensive line was so bad last year, everywhere. They need to redo the entire thing because of just how bad it was. And it's just so crucial that the offensive line is in good fashion so that Mike McDaniel can run the offense he wants. The 49ers offensive line was really, really good. And that's part of the reason why they had so much success. So I do want to go with I want to address the offensive line with Miami no matter what, basically, just because I think that defense is pretty good that they have set up. They've brought in weapons. They signed Cedric Wilson, bringing Chase Edmonds. So I think offensively they're doing well, but I want to get up front. So I'm going to go with Zion Johnson.
All right, so Zion Johnson is the guard from Boston College. He goes over there to the Miami Dolphins. That puts the Kansas City Chiefs and Scott Bogman on the clock.
Yeah, this is tough because I feel like, I feel corner is a need for this team, but you got to get a pass rush here for this squad. You're Kansas City, you get leads, then you give them up because you're not hitting the quarterback. We saw it against Buffalo last season. So I'm going to give them Boye Mafe out of Minnesota. I don't know that he is quite a first rounder at this point, but I think when you're in this situation, when you're Kansas City, you've been in the AFC Championship 4 years in a row. You've been in the Super Bowl twice, right? I think what you need is a situational pass rusher, and I think that is what Boye Mafe comes in and does for them. He gives them some speed off the edge to knock down some quarterbacks, disturb those throws, and he can drop in and do that immediately. I think the rest of his game needs to be refined a little bit before he's a 3-down player, but he can come in on those 3rd and longs and get after the quarterback's backside. So that is what you want if you're Kansas City. So tough call between edge and corner here, but I will go with the edge rusher.
All right, the Cincinnati Bengals up next with a 31st pick. Derek Brown, you are on the clock.
I think that there's a guy that's going to sneak into the first round here. I think that Bogman was talking about the corner class, and I'm going to go with Roger McCreary at Auburn. I think that he's going to be a good fit for what the Cincinnati Bengals want to do, especially considering as much zone as they run, 57% outside the corners were in zone last year. McCreary is a fantastic fit for that type of defense. 40% catch rate, 29 passer rating allowed in zone. So I think that he's a guy that could sneak up the boards and one of these corners if they get into the back end of the first round. I think McCreary definitely fits the bill.
All right. So with the second pick, the Detroit Lions took Trayvon Walker with their last pick here at 32 to close out the first round. Andrew Erickson, they take who?
I know I went with Pickett last time here to get that 5th-year option for my small-handed quarterback, but he's not available, so I'm gonna have to pivot. But I'm still gonna go quarterback here. I think it just makes a lot of sense for Detroit. You know, they are picking at 34, but if they're gonna take a quarterback with one of these picks, it would behoove them to take it with the 32nd pick so they get that 5th-year option. So I'm gonna go with Sam Howell from UNC.
Really?
Really?
Okay.
What do you mean? Really?
I thought he was going to say Desmond Ritter. That's the name
I thought about that too.
I thought you were going to say Ritter. I'm surprised. All right, so talk to me, baby. Let's go. Sam Howell, talk it up. Tell me why.
I mean, I think that he's gotten some maybe not unfair flack, but I mean, he showed that when he has, decent weapons around him, like he did not this past year, but the year before, we had Diami Brown, he had Javonte, he had Michael Carter, he had Daz Newsome. He was really good. And last year, when he didn't have those guys, what did he show? Oh, that he can run and that he can be versatile with the ball in his hands. Like, he's not someone that's just a statue in the pocket where I'm going to get destroyed if the guys don't get open. So I think that the Lions might look at that as, okay, like, this is someone that can kind of work off the script a little bit more, someone that they can potentially develop. And also, there's a connection there with Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator. He also went to UNC. Like, there's something to that. Like, people like people that are like them, like the network connection. Now, it could also mean Ben Johnson, like, literally hates him. He's like, because he knows him very well. So this pick would
I was going to say, like, I've known you for so long, and you're still here anyway with me. So I don't know how that all happened.
But yeah, I think that we'll probably find out more about.
I love it, the non-reaction.
He just hopped it. He said, nah.
Sam Howell's going to pass the Dan Campbell vibe check for sure, by the way.
Yeah,
the kneecap biting, all that stuff. Yeah, I like that pick.
All right, D-Bro, does that make sense for you too? Or you would put another quarterback for the Detroit Lions?
I think if you're looking at as far as like scheme and the guy that's the most pro-ready, I was prepared to push back on the Ritter pick, like because I don't
crossed
see
my
Ritter
mind. I was like, oh no, like, am I ready for the D-Road to just come down on me right now if I go with Ritter?
I'm not a Ritter guy, man. Like, I saw the mocks, especially earlier in season, like where it was like he was a first round pick and a high first round pick in some mocks, and I'm like, I don't know about that. And I don't disagree. I think that taking Sam Howell makes a lot of sense on a lot of different avenues, especially like look, Andrew talked about it. They were at Senior Bowl. They got to talk to all these quarterbacks. So either they're going to love one of these guys and really invest in them and get them at the back end of the first round, get the 5th-year option, or they're going to say, we're good. We're good. We'll just roll with Jared Goff for another year, and we'll just go to next year's class and continue to build up the roster around it. So if they're going to go quarterback, I think that this is the spot, and I don't hate the Sam Howell pick. Now, if Ritter was the case, all right, we'd be having some words right now.
Ooh, I like it. I hope next time in the third mock draft, everyone sticks around and Ritter gets taken so we can have those words. So tune in for that. That's going to be very exciting. All right, just to recap here where we were. From the 20th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers took cornerback Andrew Booth. 21st pick, the New England Patriots selected Devin Lloyd, linebacker from Utah. Then Chris Olave, wide receiver from Ohio State, goes to the Packers. 23rd pick, Arizona Cardinals take center Tyler Linderbaum. Then you have the 24th pick, Dallas Cowboys, selecting edge rusher George Karlaftis. Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle from Georgia, going at 25 to the Buffalo Bills, followed by the Tennessee Titans at 26, taking advantage of David Ojabo's injury. The edge rusher from Michigan getting a late pick there. The Buccaneers selecting DeMarvin Leal, defensive tackle from Texas A&M. Then Bernard Raymond, offensive tackle from Central Michigan, going to the Packers at 28. At 29, the Miami Dolphins taking Zion Johnson, guard from Boston College. Boye Mafe, one of my new favorite names, without a doubt, edge rusher. Minnesota going to the Kansas City Chiefs based on need. Then the Cincinnati Bengals taking Roger McCreary, cornerback from Auburn, and Sam Howell, no controversy apparently here, quarterback, North Carolina, to the Detroit Lions. So stepping back here, we didn't get Breece Hall. Again, this is the second time in a row. So D-Bro, where does Breece Hall go for you? Because I know from the fantasy pros side of things, that's what everybody wants to know. So now that we're out of the first round, you start to look ahead to the second. Do you see a team like the Jets maybe going for that early? Do you see a team like the Texans going for that? I mean, the Texans have done all sorts of things in the past in terms of making their selections. What do you think you do here? Or do you think, I should say, Breece Hall might end up here in the second round?
I think both of these running backs, for fantasy purposes, and maybe I'm just having rose-colored glasses here, fellas. And I'm going to mention the Houston Texans in that. If they're going to remake this team, I think that getting a running back with 37th pick makes some sense. I think that Brees could go to Houston, and I'm going to add one on the top of here too, that I think that Atlanta, if considering they have got a gaggle of 1-year deals and elderly running backs, could be a really good landing spot for Kenneth Walker. I think we could see both of these, this tier of unto themselves of running backs in this class, I think could go inside the top 50 picks.
Bogman, one of the sneakier talents, I think, in this draft is George Pickens, the wide receiver from Georgia. He did not go in the first round. Do you see anybody in the second round taking a shot on him early?
Oh, for sure. Someone would say, I mean, the Lions could absolutely use another wide receiver. The Jets could use one. The Texans, another team that could be desperate for a wideout. I like Nico Collins, but if you could get Pickens, I would say Pickens is an absolute upgrade. The Bears are in play. There's many teams. The Saints. I think the Saints would be a great fit for Pickens. Pickens is a true talent. Dotson didn't go in the first either. There's so many good wide receivers. That's why when I skipped wide receiver a couple times, I said, look, this class is so good. There's going to be good guys available in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round here too. So maybe you might not see as many go in the first round as you think, just because some of these other positions are fairly thin. Linebackers fairly thin. Safety's fairly thin.
Right.
You know what I mean? So teams might be snapping up these other thin positions and waiting on a wide receiver because there are so many good ones.
Yeah, Sky Moore, another one too. It's very interesting. The quarterback still remaining on the board. Obviously, Desmond Ridder, we know that. He's still available. Andrew Erickson thumbed his nose there. Then you have Matt Corral still available too. So do you see those guys going in the second round, Andrew?
Yeah, I think that's where they'll both end up going. There will be one team that will say, oh, like this could be the guy that we could turn around, because you see some things, you see bursts of, what this guy could be at the NFL level. I mean, Corral, I feel like there's so much I don't know about because he's just been hurt. And it's like, I want to kind of see him. I just want to see more of him. But, he's been banged up, and that's not necessarily going. I mean, when I watched him play, like, it reminded me a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo, and what's Garoppolo's like a more athletic version of Garoppolo, but Garoppolo's biggest issue has been literally he's always hurt. That's his biggest issue, and I'm afraid that's not going to make it doesn't get easier when you get to the NFL when everybody else is faster. So I have concerns about Corral, and then from Ritter's standpoint, I know that he has a lot of accuracy issues, and that is not something you should just whatever, he doesn't need to be accurate with the football, that's fine. But he does have similar to a Hurts, where he has a really good athletic profile. And I'm kind of looking at it through my fantasy lens, where it's okay, well, if he can't throw the ball or is not accurate, it's right, that means he's going to, take the ball himself and go run for 20 yards because he's oh, well, I can't hit anybody open. So I think Ridder kind of has some appeal with that. I like Ridder in terms of drafting him in fantasy, especially with the way the quarterbacks are kind of tiered out, where he's usually looked at as the bottom tier with the rest of these quarterbacks. So if I can end up getting him later on in rookie drafts, whether it be super flex or non super flex, I think that if he ends up starting at some point, we're going to see him use his legs, and that in itself is going to create some fantasy value.
All right, there you have it. Scott Bogman, thank you for joining us today. And if you want more coverage on all these guys coming into the NFL, there's no better place to find it than the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Football Podcast, hosted by our own Scott Bogman, along with Pat Fitzmaurice every single week. Fantastic work there. And of course, you can check out this mock draft on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/fantasypros. Make sure you subscribe and click that little bell for the notifications so you know every time something new and exciting happens here on our YouTube channel, which is every single day, because it's been a busy time in the NFL. There's been no sleep for any of us, I feel like, in the last few weeks or so, but we're getting closer and closer to the draft. Gentlemen, this was great fun as always. Next time, I think when we come back, it's going to be 2 rounds, so things are going to get really saucy here, not just for Ahmed Gardner, but for all of us here at Fantasy Pros. So hopefully you've enjoyed this mock draft episode. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Scott Bogman, Andrew Erickson, and Derek Brown, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.